You're listening to the Comic Crusaders Podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. What up, everybody? It's your boy, Al Mega. Welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders Podcast. And before we get started today, let me introduce one of my co-pilots today. You know, this is what I do. I share the love with my Comic Crusaders family. Let me introduce the one and only Mr. Bracey from Cinema Crusaders and Sloppy Spoilers. What's up, homie? How you doing?
Well, I must be having a really bad hair day because my camera refused to work. But other than that, I am here in the spirit, which is appropriate for the subject matter of today's podcast.
Apparently so, bro. I think you did this shit on purpose, but don't mess with me. And that's the whole thing right here. If you can see on the screen, man, we're going to talk about a legendary TV medium character, and Kolchak even more than that, as Bracey and the guests here are going to educate us. Of this guest, man, was raised on Saturday morning cartoons, comic book sitcoms, Captain Crunch, and Cold War. He's apparently a big Tetris, has a Tetris addiction. I would love to challenge him in a game one day. But he's a writer, he's a creator, he's an editor, he's an amazing person from my hometown of New York. You know, but he hails from one of the other boroughs, Staten Island. The one, the only, James Aquilone. What up, kid? How you doing?
Wow, thank you. Thanks for having me out.
Yeah, but I'm happy to have you on, man. A fellow comic book nerd from New York, man, that's doing big things all over the place. But I love it, man. And just like you, man, I grew up on all those same things too, man. I love him when that Captain Crunch saw you.
Oh man, need the whole box.
Yo, you and me both, but don't tell wifey. She asked me the other day, what happened to the Captain Crunch? I'm like, I don't know. It was probably the kids. Bullshit. Man, Munchie is a hell of a thing. But brother, for real, thanks for coming on, brother. You know, I know you're a fellow comic book nerd, man. You're doing some awesome stuff, man. You got this Kickstarter coming up for Kolchak, you know, again, a legendary character. And, you know, we're going to dig into that. But before we do that, you know, let's let people know again. You know, I always say, well, you're from New York, you're from Staten Island, man. You know, just tell us a little bit more about yourself, you know, growing up in Staten Island as a pop culture enthusiast. I mean, who put you on? Was it mama? Was it papa? And how easy was it for you to find your tribe back then?
I think really I found it through TV. I don't think there was no one in my family who was into books or comics or anything like that. So I was like your typical like 70s, 80s kid who was raised by TV.
There's no babysitter. Put Channel 5 and go to bed at this time.
All my values came from like the Cosby Show and Family Ties. That's what I thought a family was.
Oh man, I hope you're not putting nothing in the Jello.
It was, you know, back in the 80s, that was the show though, you know.
I hear you, man. It was that, What's Happening, all that good stuff. All in the Family, Three's Company, yep. You know, MASH. Even though when MASH came on, I knew it was bedtime as a kid.
Right. Yeah. No, it was the Honeymooners that came on at 11 o'clock. But I was up all night usually. I would watch the Honeymooners, watch the Tonight Show, and then Letterman, and I would do my homework at that time.
All right, bet. So, you know, so you're doing this, watching your TV and stuff. And did you ever share this with anybody in school and whatnot? Like, or this is something you kept private, man? Were you like it's, you know, a quiet nerd? Because I know back then it wasn't safe to be a nerd.
Yeah, no. I mean, when I was a kid, everyone was into Star Wars and stuff. But most of the kids, you know, I grew up in Brooklyn, so most of the kids are into sports. I was into sports too. So,
all right, who's your team?
The Yankees.
Oh, thank God! If you would have said the Mets, interview over.
Yeah. Well, I got my Bull Durham hat on.
Empire. Oh, no, there you go. Definitely a Yankee. And what's your football team?
I don't really watch football. I mean, I used to be like into the Cowboys.
Oh,
not the Cowboys. Well, the Cowboys for a little while, but then I used to like the Dolphins just because of Dan Marino.
Okay, gotcha.
You know,
but baseball's your thing. But
baseball was my thing. Yeah, I never.
So long as the Yankees were good, even though we're not going any place lately, but it's all right.
Yeah.
We've been there before, and then a dynasty was born. We'll get there again. So talk about just the fandom then growing up. I mean, how did you even get into like the creative side of things? So, because here you are as a fan, you say you're not easy not to find a tribe. Your family's not that type, of fan people. Neither was mine, but my mama was the one handing me books. Bracey, let me ask you, so who handed you your fandom? Was it like James self-discovery, or was it a parent, a family member, a friend?
Really, James and I parallel quite a bit. I'm a little bit older than you guys. I think I was growing up on Archie Bunker and Good Times, so maybe 10 years earlier. But yeah, I was way back in the day watching the old Saturday morning cartoons, getting up at 5 a.m. Because you only had till noon, and then the TV wasn't yours anymore. But there was a wonderful horror host back in the day. I lived up north for a few years. I'm primarily a Southern boy. This fellow named Dr. Shock, and so I got to see a lot of classic horror, a lot of black and white horror movies. And so I grew up with everything from Godzilla to all the Universal monsters. And I had a cousin who's also an artist like myself who was really into that stuff. So I got into it before he reinforced it. But like James, I found my own way there. And, once my parents discovered I liked comic books, my mom would, grab me odd comic books. And it didn't matter what it was back in the day. I just enjoyed it all.
Nice. Yeah. You and me both, but that's awesome. So James, then, so here you are. Then how did you start getting into the creative aspect of it? Then, what led to that?
I'd always want to be a writer. So even through like maybe probably late in high school, that was the only thing I wanted to do. I never really wanted a job.
you knew you didn't need no boss. Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean,
I love it.
I was trying to figure out a way, like
I love it,
graduating and like not working. So and anything I wanted to do was like not something you would make money doing.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to go to college to maybe like, learn how to write, but I was also worried that like, if I get a college degree, I can't like use that college degree to like get a publishing deal. So I ended up getting a journalism degree.
Okay.
Cool. Then I could write and edit and learn, the trade some way. And, so I did that, and like I was also a really lazy person, and I really didn't take the fiction writing and stuff seriously until like my mid to late 30s.
Really?
Like so many creators are lazy people.
Lazy, but then I'm ambitious, so then I get myself involved in all these projects, and then I go, "Whoa, what did I do?" So now I'm like.
You're doing the rap cram. They're like, oh, wait a minute.
Because now I got all these projects going. I go, man, I can't sleep now, and just do nothing. Wow. I really like doing nothing.
So wait, what did you do in your 20s then? You didn't even start your journey. Hopefully you were thinking of all these stories at least.
In my 20s, yeah, I'd be writing stories and stuff. I didn't start submitting stuff till like maybe the late 90s, but I got all the rejections. But I was, out of college, I was working for newspapers and magazines.
Oh, dope! Excellent.
Yeah, one of my first jobs was like Harris Publications, and they were a magazine publisher. And at the time, they were publishing Vampirella.
Yeah,
and some creepy reprints and stuff.
Yeah, because they took over from Warren.
Yeah,
Harris. And so that was cool, but I never got to work on like anything cool like Vampirella. I was working on like quilting magazines.
Oh, really?
like deer hunting magazine and stuff.
I'm about to say, at least with the quilts made of comic stuff, panels or something.
They did everything. They did triple XL magazine and
okay, dope.
They did guitar magazine too, but I never got to work on anything that was cool. So then from there, I ended up working in broadcast. I work now for iHeartMedia.
Oh, dope. Oh, well, how did you get into broadcast from that? What led to that navigation? Was it with intent or just something that happened?
Well, to show you how old I was, I got the job from a New York Times ad.
Oh my God, the good old days, looking at an effing paper. I remember those days, bro.
And I faxed my resume.
Fact.
Oh wow.
And I started seeing like posts about people asking like, what did we used to do with printers and faxes in our houses? We used to actually look for work though. That's what we used to do. Damn it. Why go to the store every day and pay 50 cents to $1 for a fax,
Before that, we used to mail it. I mean,
mail it, yeah. Go in person, and the suit got to dress up. You got to go outside, maskless.
Oh God, yeah. I
Crazy.
used to spend like hundreds and maybe thousands of dollars over the years making photocopies of my artwork and mailing it off to different publishers.
Crazy. And now as simple as get a Gmail account, send an email. There you go with a PDF that you can create on your computer. That's your investment. Is your
So much
computer, your
easier.
hardware. Right? Don't you love it? And how do you feel about that journey, James? Because you've been on that journey for a minute, seeing this whole navigation from how you used to do it then to see how it is now. Before we dive into the big boy.
Yeah, I mean, like publishing.
Publishing wise, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot. I mean, like you said, now you have a Gmail account and you can just send things. That's cool for the writer, but for like the editors and publishers, it's not, because then anybody could do it. So that's why, we had my last anthology, Classic Monsters and Unleashed. We had an open submissions period, and we got like almost 1,000 submissions.
Wow.
Weird Tales, that when last time they opened up to submissions, they supposedly got 10,000 submissions.
10,000.
Like, you wouldn't get that,
Jesus.
people had to mail that,
Okay, you imagine though, back in the day, getting 10,000 submissions like that as an editor? Oh my God, bro! Coming through with sacks of mail, like, here you go, bro. This is what you got to go through.
But now it's so easy. Everyone's just like, you know what? I have a story sitting here. I'm just gonna send it off, and often it's like it has nothing to do with the theme. You have to sort of sift through all that. So that makes it a little more difficult. If you had to like, print out the story, put it in a manila envelope, go to the post office and pay for it, you wouldn't see that. But that's the one thing. But of course now anyone can publish, and I started self-publishing about 5 years ago. And you don't have to go through the publishers anymore, and you can say, hey, I go like Kickstarter and see if people are interested in it, and then you say, oh well, this is probably a book that the publishers wouldn't have published, because my first novel was Dead Jack Zombie Detective, and I knew that no publisher would want that, because he's he's addicted to fairy dust, and he drinks formaldehyde, and he smokes, and he does all these things that I don't think publishers would like. So I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to write it the way I want to write it. I'm going to write it the way that I would enjoy it, and I figured I'm going to self-publish this anyway, so I'm not going to have to worry about the publishers. And I went to Kickstarter, and I at that time I raised like $5,300.
Okay,
that was pretty good.
Did you meet the goal?
Yeah, my goal was only like $1,000.
Oh wow, nice! So 5 times the goal on your first try. Wonderful.
And it's easier with like a novel, because you're doing all the work. The only thing you have to really pay for then is like the cover, and I had a couple illustrations in there, so it wasn't that much money, And you're doing print on demand, so you only print as many books as you sell. So novel isn't that hard. Anthology is another story, because you got to pay all those writers and artists, and that can be really expensive.
Understood. And is it true though that that was actually an option for TV?
Yeah, movie and
Jack
TV.
of the Pandemonium. Epa, movie and TV, man. So is there any progress or movement that you could talk about on that or no?
Well, I think like early last year they finally accepted the TV pilot I wrote.
Oh, nice.
They're shopping that around, and then they had me write a movie treatment too. So they're working on it. We've had some meetings here and there, but then then whatever happens.
How's that experience, writing a movie treatment? Is that something you were familiar with, felt comfortable with? Is it anything different than that in a comic? I mean, how is that?
The movie treatment's weird, because it's kind of like just a synopsis. You write like a couple of pages of like the story. So that's like you have to condense it, and writers usually hate writing like synopsis of their work. The TV pilot was that was tough, because I think it took me about 3 or 4 years, because they kept making me write a different draft. Like, all right, why don't we start this episode like this, and let's do it like that. So I wrote, I think like 10 drafts, but then they finally accepted it. So I was really happy.
Yikes.
And I never wrote a TV pilot, and TV pilots are tough, because you gotta have an exciting first episode, but it's gotta kind of also tell you about the whole series.
Yeah,
and you got to jam in all the characters and the themes and stuff. So that it's a lot harder nowadays too, because you do these serialized stories.
Yeah.
If you just did like a self-contained episode, it's not as difficult. But so you're really writing an episode that's not really a full story. So it was definitely a learning experience to do that.
Oh, I can't imagine at all. So let's get into the bad boy. I know Bracey's itching over here because you have this amazing new Kickstarter out, right? That you're partaking in, for an amazing classic character in Kolchak, the Night Stalker. I mean, wow, 50 years? Holy smokes, yo! Iconic character. So, talk about your involvement with the project and why this character right now.
Well, Moonstone has the license to do Kolchak stories.
Oh, cool.
There was a weird thing with the history of Kolchak. So, Kolchak, the dramatic rights are still owned by I think Universal, because it aired on ABC.
Okay.
But it was actually an unpublished novel, and from that unpublished novel, then they made the first TV movie. There were 2 TV movies, and then it was made into a TV series.
I believe that was by author Jeff Rice as well.
Jeff Rice, yeah. So Jeff Rice, it's actually a kind of a crazy story. Jeff Rice writes this novel. I think it's called the Kolchak Tapes or the Kolchak Papers, and he sends it to Richard Matheson's agent. Richard Matheson is a very famous horror writer. He wrote I Am Legend, and he wrote a lot of the most famous and probably the best Twilight Zone episodes. So he sends it to Richard Matheson's agent, and Richard Matheson's agent basically just goes and sells the TV movie rights to the Kolchak without telling Jeff Rice.
Oh no!
So he gets his letter. Oh, great idea! I got some money in the bank, baby.
Right. So he sells the rights, and then he also hooks up Richard Matheson as the writer of the TV movie.
What?
Yeah.
Wow, that's gossip, bro. That's some TMZ shit.
Then he brings Jeff Rice into it.
Afterwards,
yeah.
Wow.
So it wasn't a great situation, but then for some reason then the studios didn't have the rights for the literary rights. So Jeff Rice was able to hold on to the literary rights, which is why we were able to do Kolchak novels and comic books without having to go through the studio.
Nice.
Crazy.
So in that way, it worked out.
Yeah, publishing and licensing is a weird deal.
Yeah.
Man, Bracey, I'm leaving the floor to you right here. Kill him on these Kolchak questions, because you see it's the 50th anniversary. I mean, and I know you're a big guy in this. Fortunately, we wanted our other brother here, Nemesis. May he get better. He's dealing with some health issues, so I hope you get better soon, brother.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, the first thing that's intriguing is listening to a bit of your own backstory there, finding out that you went into journalism, and looking over some of your work like Dead Jack. You clearly appreciate the noir genre, and you're obviously very heavily into horror, and I appreciate both of those. But I wasn't aware of the journalism degree, so that gives you, I think, a very unique perspective for. You wrote the standalone story Satanic Panic '88. So tell us a little bit how the journalism degree has affected your writing a character like Kolchak, who is in fact a journalist.
Yeah, so Kolchak then is like the perfect character for me. Like my Dead Jack character is very similar to Kolchak. He fights monsters and does investigations and stuff, and he's kind of like I guess the slobbish kind of loserish character like Kolchak is. And then I do have a background in journalism. I haven't done too much reporting. I mean, again, like I said, I'm lazy, so I like to sit behind the desk. I had interned for a little while with the New York Post, and they sent me out on a couple of stories, and it was terrible. So I do sympathize with reporters. That's a gig.
I love this guy. He's so honest. Like, listen, I want to just write. I don't need to do shit other than write and use my brain, yo. All right.
Yeah, I'm like the cop is like, give me a desk job. I don't want to go out.
Right. I'm not arresting nobody. I'll do the papers.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that the New York Post sent me out on was the woman was sexually assaulted by Prospect Park, like in her apartment building.
Oh, wow.
And they say to me, go to the apartment building and start knocking on doors. That's the first thing. And I thought with this internship, I was going to be shadowing another reporter and learning from them. No, they just sent me a bomb.
Raw
threw you in the deep end.
By Prospect Park. And it was like, just knock on doors. And I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I'm going in there and I'm knocking on doors. And then I think, again, I think I am Kolchak. It's like, I'm going to solve this case. And so I go up to the top, of the apartment building, and I'm like, I'm gonna check out the roof. Maybe this guy came through the roof. This is how crazy I am. So I go up to the flight of stairs leading to the roof, and these alarms start going off. And it's going, brr, 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 and I'm just hauling ass down the apartment, and I run out of the place, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe what I just did.
It sounds like you got some of that Kolchak spirit in you, man.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, that's what watching too much TV will do. You think you're like the Hardy Boys or something. So I always thought that that was the way it would be, but it didn't work out.
I love it.
So I'm also curious because I don't see many writers who are also editors. I see you're the editor for this project and many other projects as well. So what's attractive about editing for you and this project in particular?
Well, with this project, like a lot of people think like they say you're the editor, that you're just like editing the words and stuff, and it's not. It's like you're really a project manager, and especially when you have a Kickstarter involved, you're putting this whole thing together. And it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of fun because then I get to pick the theme, and then I go out and I contact all these artists and writers, and it's pretty awesome to be working with people like Rodney Barnes and Kim Newman and Jonathan Mayberry. And then when you have a cool project, it's a lot easier because then you say, hey, I'm doing a Kolchak anthology, and they're like, oh, I'm in. And a lot of people who I'm sure wouldn't work with me otherwise will be like, okay. And then it wasn't that difficult to get a lot of the writers involved in this project at all. So that's what I like as an editor. Well, the big difference between an editor and writer is that as an editor, you get to work with other people. As a writer, you're doing this all alone, and that could be a little boring and it could be a little lonely. But as an editor, you get to work with a whole team. And with these projects, you get to work with like 30 people, and you get to meet these really cool writers and artists. And that's what's cool about comic books too, is that you get, it's a collaborative thing.
All right. Well, that leads me into another question I had. I was going to ask you about selecting your talent pool. It sounds like you didn't have any trouble getting a lot of people interested just because of the subject matter. A lot of us who are into all this sort of thing, like Kolchak is an icon. Was there anybody who you wanted that you couldn't get, or was also conversely, was anybody like you were really looking forward to working with that you're able to get right away? And I love the fact that you got the legacy of Richard Matheson's son, Richard C. Matheson, on the project as well.
He was the first one I went to because I really wanted him in it since his father wrote the first two movies. Mm-hmm. And I already worked with him on my last Kickstarter with the classic Monsters Unleashed. So that was kind of like a no-brainer. And so he said yes. And I was like, okay, once he's in, it's not going to be that difficult to get anybody else. Kim Newman, I was looking at, I was just researching Kolchak stuff, and they were putting out a Blu-ray of the entire series. They put it out in October, and I saw that he was doing the audio commentary. And then I had Googled him, and he had said something that he had put Kolchak in his first Anno Dracula novel. And he was kind of pissed with himself because he didn't figure that Anno Dracula would be like a series. And the first book takes place like in the 1880s, and he always wanted to put Kolchak in the 1970s, and he didn't get a chance. So I was like, I'll give him a chance. So when I contacted him, it was like, all right, I'll do it. And he wrote this amazing story. that's kind of like an alternate ending to the Night Stalker.
So he's the one who writes Kolchak's last case.
No, he's one of the 70s stories. So he does like a play on the Night Stalker.
So does that mean your story, the Satanic Panic '88, is the last Kolchak case? Because I did notice that's part of the anthology.
No, we go up until like the late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay, I'm pretty excited to see what you guys think about how Kolchak should wrap up. Now, looking at the other side of things, artists. Now you've got Dan Brereton for the cover, who is an absolutely fantastic choice. Not only is he a tremendous artist and really big into the monster genre, but he has that pulp style, which is so fitting for a character like Kolchak. You know, you look at his covers and you see things like Doc Savage kind of jump to mind. Tell me about like working with some of these artists, and if you got the picks that you wanted, or if there's anybody else that you would have wanted for the project too. I know it's still kind of ongoing, so give us a little bit of information on that.
Well, Dan's cover was actually an unpublished cover that Moonstone had. And it was I think it was supposed to be a novel, and it never came out. And it was this awesome cover. And like I said, I wrote this Satanic Panic story. So we're gonna take that and make it a standalone comic. So we're gonna do like a 40-page comic with just like 3 of the stories in it. And we're using Dan's cover, which is perfect because it's Kolchak and a demon. So it's like, wow, this is like was tailor-made for this story. So that's the cover we're using for the standalone comic, which will have my story, and I haven't picked the other stories in there yet. But I was like saying, like I like graphic novels, but I have to have a floppy too.
Right.
So that worked out, and that's an amazing cover. We haven't shown it yet. We only showed 2 of the covers, but we haven't shown them with text yet. But they're all done now. And J.K. Woodward has an amazing cover too.
So I got the 2 covers that you did show first by Mr. Worley. Look at that. I mean, look how gorgeous. That's dope.
Yeah, beautiful.
Dude. Right? And then you got the legend Ordway right here. Look at that, yo. I'm digging it too. So old school, bro. But yeah, the way he captures even the hat, bro. I'm about to get one of those, bro. I mean, beautiful, man. I mean, how easy was it to get legends like that to contribute?
Well, one of our contributors knew him and worked with him, so he hooked us up.
Oh, nice.
With him. Like I said, Moonstone has done a bunch of comics before, so there was some people who had already worked with them. Some people I just cold called, and they got back to me and said, "Yeah, I'll do it." Some people my publicist knew. So it was harder to find the interior artists. I think artists rather do covers than do interior pages.
Yeah.
So
how was that journey then? And what kind of pools did you use to force the talent?
Admittedly, pages are a grind, so I feel their pain, but it's part of the gig.
Yeah, everyone's like, "I'll do a cover, I'll do a pinup for you," but I don't know if I have time to do. We have 12 to 16 page stories.
Oh, wow.
But I was trying to hook up writers with artists who they already worked with. So like Peter David is his story is going to be illustrated by J.K. Woodward.
Nice.
Who worked with Fallen Angel. Tim Newman's working with Paul McCaffrey, who illustrates the Anno Dracula comics. David Aquilone is his story is going to be out.
What? David A. is on this. He's like the gentleman of comics. Homie's always well dressed.
The same thing.
You gotta hook him up with Ben Templesmith. That guy's always dressed.
But nah, man, I feel like a bum next to those 2 guys. I'm like, damn, but I might have to step it up as album maker. Really got to put the whip on them. The way
GQ of comics going on between the 2 of them.
I don't even own a suit, so as I dress up as I get.
I hear you, but from New York, T-shirts and a cap, I'm good, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you're lucky I'm not standing up.
I don't have exactly. I don't have to wear a tie. I work from home. I don't even have to
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But his story's gonna be illustrated by Julius Otha, who
wow.
I think he worked with him on the Betty Page comic. So that I was cheating a little bit too. It was like, all right, you tell me who you want to work with, and we'll.
Nice. Nice. That's not cheating, man. Because if you could find people that are comfortable that also enjoy the content, that's going to be, what the content is. I mean, they'll create beautiful stories out of that. Absolutely, especially with people they're comfortable working with. I think that's a great plan.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a collaborative effort. So I wanted writers to work with. Already worked with these artists, so it'll flow a little more smoothly.
Yeah, man. And so this Kickstarter, right now, it's just in a pre-launch phase, right?
Yeah, we're gonna launch January 10th. Because January 11th is the actual 50th anniversary of.
Dope!
The NIGHT STALKER aired January 11th, 1972, on ABC.
So do we know what the ask is yet, so we could reach it in one day and to celebrate that 50th hard, or no?
I think we'll make it. We have almost 800 followers already.
Oh, dope! Okay.
The pre-launch page, so that's really that blew past our estimates. We were hoping for just to get 500. We could possibly get to 1,000. We still got another week and a half. So
let's go, man. We have Kolchak fans here. Bracey. Once I told Bracey about you and Kolchak, he's like, I want in.
Oh yeah, I immediately followed you and the project, so you can expect my money.
Yeah, so it's been going really well. So I expect. I don't want to jinx it or anything, but I expect to have a pretty good.
Ain't a jinx. You throw it onto the world. It's a classic character. How could it be a jinx? If not, he'll come after you. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, because there's never been anything like this for Kolchak. So it's not gonna just be the book. You're gonna have Kolchak T-shirts. We're gonna have prints and posters, and we got some other surprises.
What do you think if this could get remade into a new series or continue the story? Because again, this is a cult hit that only lasted a season.
Well, if you'd allow me to interject there, because that's actually one of my questions. Because they did try in the 90s to bring back the NIGHT STALKER. They didn't call it Kolchak, and it didn't do well. It didn't have any of the charm. And Kolchak, as it is very much a product of its time, with that sort of style of reporter. And we've talked about this with amongst ourselves, my fellow comic Crusaders. And we were wondering the same thing, if this could happen now, because now you do have the age of independent journalists via the internet. So you could have the nosy reporter character again. Do you think this is something that could work in the modern day?
I think it's tough in the modern day. I mean, for me, and this is why I really wanted to set it in the original timeline of the show, because Kolchak to me is the 70s, and if we're gonna put him in the 80s, I think the 80s works too, and the 50s, at least age him, So we're gonna actually have story. We're gonna have his story, kind of an origin story that David Avalone's gonna write when Kolchak's 14. In 1936, so it would be his first
young man Kolchak.
It would be his first assignment for his high school newspaper.
Dope.
I wanted
stuff like that. So I don't know. I mean, I guess you could make it work in the modern day. I wouldn't want him to be a blogger or anything like that.
Because that's the avenue they would take, I think. Oh, he's gonna be a blogger or some blog. Not that he works for a real, print.
I was thinking in the vein of not a blogger per se, but a little bit more of a sort of serious online journalist, if you will, sort of a Tim Pool character, is a little bit
like a cheddar reporter or something.
Yeah, there's this kind of pushback against media these days. Trust has fallen away, so the internet media has become the source of information for a lot of people. And I think that's kind of an interesting angle, but I would desperately miss the powder blue leisure suit and the old style hat because nobody's going to rock that these days.
Well, they did that 2000. I think it was 2005. Was it that Stuart Townsend?
Was it? Okay, I thought it was late 90s, but that fell flat for me.
I'm sorry, bro.
Just couldn't get into it.
Bracey, I know that you're part of the older generation, but Al Mega's still very fashionable, and apparently the millennials love grandpa style nowadays. So
Do you have a powder blue leisure suit?
yeah, you know what, bro? I may need to get one. If that's that's the style, I might go to get.
You know,
for
you
real.
might be right. They're like retro could be in. It could happen.
I have
You have
seen
to have a
young
suit.
people wearing Al Bundy brown slacks with sweaters and big glasses. You know what I'm talking about? Like, word. I'm like, damn, God. Hey, whatever, bro. Whatever. Hey, that's the style.
It would be difficult to find anybody who could carry the role like Darren McGavin did, but you know, you never know. I was really impressed by like what the that Skarsgård kid did with it after watching Tim Curry. So I'm not knocking it. Somebody out there can probably do it. So aside from just the horror genre, which obviously we're all big fans of here, looking at your own work and looking at Kolchak, you seem to be really drawn to pulp and noir as well. So what's the appeal of that for you? And obviously that brings you right into something like Kolchak.
I think again that was like being like growing up in the 70s with Star Wars, and so when Star Wars came out, that like changed everything. And then obsessed with Star Wars, and then I found out George Lucas based all of this on like Flash Gordon and all those old serials. So then I became obsessed with Flash Gordon.
So you started going back in time, like, yo, hold on, let me.
Yeah. So I loved the Flash Gordon movie.
Wait, how did you find those? Oh, you were watching the movies. Did you go back into the books too? And
I read some books. I remember at one point, it might have been like the late 70s, early 80s, like PBS started playing the actual old serials.
Did you catch them really late at night? Because that's when I ended up catching them.
I think they were on in the morning or something. They started playing like the Flash Gordon serial, and then they started playing this crazy one with Gene Autry, where he's like a cowboy, and it's called Phantom Empire. And underneath his ranch is like this alien race.
What?
It was sci-fi mixed with the Western. It was epic.
Yeah.
Wait, and this is a serial. You guys are blowing my mind.
Yeah, Phantom Empire.
This is Western sci-fi before Aliens versus Cowboys.
Way before Favreau's Cowboy versus Aliens.
Yeah.
Love it.
I couldn't believe that. So I was watching that stuff. I loved it. I was
on the next sloppy spoilers.
So that stuff was great. So it was always like I'm in love with that. And then you had Indiana Jones came out. So my whole childhood, those were the movies. They were all based on those old serials. And
we were watching great stuff. I mean, that kind of the apes, all amazing stuff. All the Hammer films. I mean, we grew up. We can't see this anymore. Thank you, Pluto. That's probably the only place I've been finding classics right now. I swear to God. Thank you for somebody.
The 1980s had easily the best of these big blockbuster like action movies. That they don't compete with like Ghostbusters and Back to the Future. Die Hard is probably the greatest action movie of all time. Alien
Christmas movie too, one of the best Christmas movies. I piss people off when I say my favorite Christmas movies are Home Alone, Die Hard, and Gremlins, and then a special salute to Silent Night, Deadly Night, and people get all mad at me.
Only 80s, man. Yeah, the 80s. They Superman 2. It goes on and on. You can't compete, and like nowadays because back in the 80s they still had they had the special effects and all that, but it still had heart, and it still had like the good writing that you had from like the 70s.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. There was something about for me. I call it. It was just a different energy in the atmosphere at that point in time when it came to the creativity. That just is not really there now. It's very rare. I'm not going to say everyone's a hack, for example. They're not. But it's very few and far in between to find a gem nowadays.
Well, the 80s really loved the 80s filmmakers really loved genre too. We're starting to get back into that now with like the superheroes and the Star Wars and all that stuff. But there was a long time when TV and the movies were not interested in genre picks at all. It all had to be, either like some sort of action or some sort of drama, something that was realistic. And there was a big period where we kind of missed out on all that exciting fantasy, that break away from reality.
Yeah. But this is why we have creators like James, bro. You know, bringing us all that fantasy and bringing us back to earth on some good stuff where we could just get away and read something amazing. So so if we wanted to get all your works, right, we could just easily go to your website, right? I mean, can we get links to your products and your stuff there?
Yeah, if you go to like jamesaquilone.com, everything should be there.
Everything should be there.
Yeah,
bro.
he's got his 3 Dead Jack novels on there. He's got the upcoming Universal Monsters.
I'm busy. I can update all this stuff.
Yeah. Do you see this guy? Bracey is all over it like white on rice.
Look, once I started looking up James, I instantly became a fan because like we are so on point. We're like totally into the same things. I love it. I can't
Awesome.
wait to experience what you've been doing. Speaking of experience, so how did you come to know Kolchak? Did you?
Yeah.
Like, was it always? Were you always part of the fandom? Like, I grew up with it. You know, I was born in '68, so like in the
Too
70s,
bad you
I was
can't see
watching
him.
this
Then you could tell
every
for sure.
chance I got.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, I was always a fan of Kolchak, but I don't remember when I first saw it. I mean, I probably saw it. I was saying before, it was probably like a midnight movie. They used to play them at like midnight, and that would be like your horror movie, and it'd be Kolchak. So it was always around. And I remember just checking out just a couple of years ago. It was like, oh, Kolchak was cool, and I was like, let me find it, and I was watching it again. So it was always something that was around, but I didn't know that there was this huge Kolchak fandom online.
Oh wow!
Because once I started,
when did you find that out though?
Once I started like researching the I had already like committed to doing the project, and then I was like saying, "Oh, I hope there are people out there who are into this," And then I started looking, and like Facebook has like these really active Kolchak groups that are like crazy. Like they post about Kolchak every day.
So you know where to post this
all
at?
Day.
I gotta look those up immediately. Like, look who we spoke to. You guys. He's making the next greatest project right here for the big
so like they're really like there's like they're diehard Kolchak fans still, and they love it, and they talk about it every day.
Oh, when you have great actors like homie, like Bracey said, like the lead actor for Kolchak, I mean, yeah, they're gonna become iconic because they obviously did a whole bunch of other things after the fact. But that was that role,
Well, he's probably best known for A Christmas Story, but like Kolchak's got to be number 2. The guy was just a genius in those 2 roles.
Yeah,
A Christmas Story. What is this? I hate Christmas.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
I like that movie though. The only thing I like about that is the lamp. But to get one of those lamps, bro. I'm surprised he doesn't have that lamp behind him now. Come on, bro. That the lady won't allow it, bro. The wife of the house.
If he had that lamp, there'd be like a gremlin perched on top of it. I'm sure.
Yeah. That's a great movie.
All right, so let me leave you with this. So I know that you're a big horror buff, obviously. You're from our generation. I need to ask you, and I know people get perplexed with this type of question, like, why are you putting me on this spot? But I have to know. But I'll make it easy for you. I'll make it easier for you. I won't say what is your favorite, but I'll say, what are your top 3 horror movies of all time?
Oh, man. I really like the new Dawn of the Dead, the Zack Snyder one.
That was a great job. He did a great job, I admit. A great homage.
Awesome. And that got me back into zombies.
Okay.
I thought that was awesome. I have to say Halloween, just because it was the first Halloween.
Okay. Yeah, go with 79.
I mean, that was like legitimately good slasher film. I think even like I was into Friday the 13th, but they're not good movies.
No, they're fun movies. Yeah.
I mean, would you consider Alien a horror movie?
Yeah,
very much so. That's cosmic horror all the way.
It's sci-fi horror. I hate when people don't think that sci-fi could be horror. It's absolute fucking horror. Because when these motherfuckers come down here, if you're telling me you're gonna be screaming like a little bitch,
come on, you've got all the things. You've got a predatory creature. You basically got a haunted house in space. You've got secret passages. You've got cosmic horror. And you've got body horror. Alien is very much a horror.
Yeah, you got stuff coming out your body in places that shouldn't be coming out. I mean, C-sections without being cut. This is horrible.
That's horrible.
That's horror to me. Absolutely, I love it, bro. You're a fan. Every movie you said, I love too. I always tell people this, and I love telling people
Let me
this. My first movie was Hell Night in a movie theater that my parents took me to in a movie theater. You understand me? So my love to horror was very early.
Let me follow up with this question, because this is a question I was interested in. Including the 2 TV movies, what's your favorite Kolchak episode?
Ooh.
That's a hard one, because I do prefer the TV movies.
Mm-hmm.
The TV episodes aren't bad. I do like the one Chopper, where is the
headless motorcycle rider,
which I think is a cool
That's the one I was gonna pick.
And that's actually written by Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale.
Nice.
Who wrote, of course, Back to the Future.
You need to add an After Effects and put Ghost Rider's head on that scene every time. How about that?
That was pretty cool. So,
that's dope. Any more questions you got, Bracey?
Let me check the list here.
That's what Bracey do, man. He be coming prep because when he loves something, he want to make sure you love it too. Yeah. But I know James love it, man. He's an amazing editor. I mean, you got amazing talent on the book, through a cool publisher, Moonstone. How did you hook up with Moonstone, by the way, to do these types of projects?
I just emailed them.
Just an email. Oh, look at that. No more, licking envelopes and stamps.
Yeah, when I think of all the money and time I spent going to cons trying to get work with art directors, and now I can just here's my website.
That's how I've learned is you just email people with an idea and it can happen.
Fantastic.
See, be bold, right? I mean,
that's a good tip for all our fellow creatives out there.
Absolutely. The only thing I can say is no, but
thank you. I say that all the time.
Even with my first Kickstarter, I didn't know the publisher. I just said I had this idea to do an anthology, all new stories based on the classic monsters. New stories based on Dracula and Frankenstein.
Nice. And you're talking about the Universal versions, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but since they're based on books.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but you know the fans. You got to kind of place it with the brand so they understand what the hell we're talking about.
Right? Yeah, I mean the Universal, but they're not.
Yeah, but they're not Universal. But it's those based on the books. But
most of those monsters are in the public domain. So that's why I was like, wow, anyone can do a Dracula story. Everyone can do Frankenstein. So why don't we do an anthology with all the monsters?
And then we could do a Thor story too, because Marvel don't own that motherfucker. That shit is not mythology.
That's mythology. You can dig right into that.
Yeah. Exactly. This is why Walt Simonson got that amazing story, Ragnarok, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a real kick-ass Thor story. If you want to read one.
All right. So here's something about Kolchak. Kolchak is a first-person sort of character. He's an audience point of view, and because he's a reporter, he's always doing his narration over the story. Do you include that in the story? And when you write your own stories, because I haven't had a chance to read your books yet, do you like to write in that first person Kolchak sort of style, or do you prefer the third person sort of God's eye view writing?
Well, in the Dead Jack books, I do the first person because that usually lends itself well to that noir detective, so you could do that narration. But then I found that with Dead Jack, Dead Jack works in this world called Pandemonium. So it's an alternate universe. It's like 1940s New York, but everybody in this universe is a monster. It's like every mythological creature or legend is in this world. So it's ogres and elves and stuff.
It's New York, yes, regularly.
It's right. New York with real ogres. So as I progressed with the series, I was like, this is a huge world that I could be doing all these other stories and so then the first person became a little kind of constricting. It was like, oh, I wish I had actually done this in third person because the world's just too big. So sometimes, first person can be a little too restrictive.
Right. Yeah, especially if you want to get into the heads of other characters.
Right. Yeah. Because with the detective, it's all about the mystery, and then it's about him trying to solve the case, and it works that way.
I've definitely been a fan of the new supernatural urban genre that's come out in the last couple of decades. With things like Dresden and Criminal Macabre and Dylan Dog, and now Your Dead Jack. So it's really fun to see somebody else playing in that playground. Speaking of which, with Moonstone, all right, so we know how you got into Moonstone. Did they offer you Kolchak, or did you see they had Kolchak and you're like, I want that?
Well, I'd seen that I wanted to do another project after I did Classic Monsters, so I had seen that they had Kolchak, and then I was like, just on a lark, I was like, let me see if like there's an anniversary or something coming up, which would be a good hook. So I look it up and I go, holy
I
cow!
love this guy. I love this guy.
Is in January, so it was like perfect. This was like maybe in the summer. So I was like, oh man, they got to do a 50th anniversary thing. So it was like it just worked out.
I love this guy. He did his homework real quick and say, "Hold up, son. I give you a real fucking hook."
Yeah.
That's
So
what
I love
it.
I love that you saw that opportunity and jumped on it.
In the email, and they were like, yeah, "Okay, we'll do it." And that was it. This is kind of silly now.
They're like, I love it.
Okay, I got two last questions then.
Perfect. Go ahead, Gracie.
Did you ever have a chance to ever meet Darren McGavin by any chance at a con or anything like that?
No.
It's a real shame. I wish it's one of the people I wish I could have met myself. And if you had a chance to, like, let's go a little cross universe here, and you could actually meet the Carl Kolchak, what would you say to him?
I love it.
I would love to know what he thought about all these monsters that's showing up, every week, and why he didn't put together, like, is there some kind of, what's going on? Like, he never seems to question that. Like every week to week, he's like, oh, well, there's a mummy now, just rampaging through Chicago, and he never seems to put together the bigger picture. So I'd like to know what his thoughts on that were.
Okay, so it's the Murder, She Wrote syndrome. It's like, why do people keep dying around Angela Lansbury?
Right.
Stay away from that lady, damn it. Right.
Chicago, though, is a pretty dangerous place, so maybe I can see that.
That's what I'm saying. That's just another day in the hood for Kolchak. It's like, yo,
that might be good fodder for a story later. It turns out, like, if you do some more things with Kolchak, that it just turns out that particular city is a real spook magnet.
Right,
that's what it is.
I like how Joss Whedon explained his away by saying, like, oh, Sunnydale's on top of a hellmouth, so it just draws all the supernatural evil.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's all you need. Yeah,
that's all you need. Yeah, absolutely. James, bro, you're awesome, bro. I appreciate your time today, man. So everybody,
this has been fun.
Yeah, bro. I mean, and I know Bracey's been loving it. So I want everybody to go. Please follow James on Twitter right now. Kolchak 50. You heard that? 50th anniversary of this amazing character. Please check out everything James Aquilone. Sounds gangster. Aquilone. Webpa. Right there. Yeah. So check out his website, please. But of course, the Kickstarter is going to launch next month, 2022. But after the new year, that's right. Jesus Christ, the new year is coming real quick. Yeah. So just do that right there, Go visit Kickstarter, look up right there, Kolchak the Night Stalker 50th anniversary. Get on those notifications. You're gonna want to be a part of this historic moment here, and not just comics, but for this iconic character. I mean, it's 50 years, You want a piece of this action, people. And it's coming through the Moonstone Books publisher right there. So even though they might not be very active, just give them a file, and let them know you want to know what the hell they're doing, all right? And what they got.
If you're a comics fan and you're a fiction fan, just look at the talent they've already got lined up for this project.
You have no idea, guys. Again, just a second before we go, Ronnie Barnes, Kim Newman, Peter David, Jonathan Marbury, oh my God, Colton Worley, Warwick Johnson Caldwell, J.K. Woodward, Paul McCaffrey, and of course the big homie James Aquilone. You know what I mean? I mean, this is amazing. Then you get a retrospective of the publication history by the publisher. Joe Gentile, I'm saying that as well, correct? But you're getting that. I mean, you're getting some alternate covers. This is an amazing project. If you don't put your money behind this iconic character, you guys are missing out. Comic Crusaders totally recommends this project, for real. So that's a seal of approval right there for me and Bracey from Cinema Crusaders and Sloppy Spoilers, which are all about movies and TV culture. So Kolchak is a marriage of both. This is why we had to have him here. All right. So, James, man, thank you again. May you and your fam have a blessed and a very happy and healthy new year. And I know people don't get their flowers, so we give them to you here. Thank you for being creative and being bold and sharing of your vision, not being afraid. You know what I mean? Putting it out there. Thank you, bro. Thank you for admitting you're lazy, that you just want to be a CEO, and that's that. You know what I mean?
That's
Get
right,
her done.
People, you can make it too.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That's it. Get her done. Get her done. and yeah, James, again, love you. Bracey, love you too, brother. Happy New Year to both of you, my peoples right there. And I appreciate the time. Folks, you know that outro tells you everything that you guys got to do. And with that, hasta la próxima, mi gente. Wepa! Later. Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.com and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.